kind of in a new spot here for a week because we're traveling. If you don't remember, maybe I could lower this, get some better lighting. Yeah, I hope you guys are having a lovely. Now it looks dark, but let's see. You know what? That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep fidgeting. So we're just gonna play with that. So I hope you guys are having a lovely week between Christmas and New Year's. I'm excited to go into 2024 with some exciting, new goals. I personally am not a big fan of setting goals, or I should say New Year's resolutions. I am a fan of setting goals. I'm not a fan of just doing it because of New Year's resolutions because it's the thing that everyone does. But this seems to be the time of year that people are aligned or thinking in that way. So for now, we're going to talk about how do we go into 2024 and how do we keep ourselves healthy, essentially. Like that's effectively like what we're going to do, because this is going to be an uphill battle no matter what way you look at it. And just for context here, this is one of the reasons why I hate New Year's resolutions, is actually only 5 to 10% of people, depending on, I looked for a few sources of this because I was kind of curious, only somewhere between like 5 and 10% of people actually keep their resolutions. And complete is kind of a vague term in and of itself because you could always rebound. But what we do know is that about 80% of people give up on their New Year's resolutions by February 1st. So that's, 1 month to get to that point. And it's just because, again, it's like, it's one of these societal norms that it's like, oh, it's the thing to do. We're going to rebrand. We're going to, new year, new me and all that garbage. But then, we get to February and literally 4 out of 5 people have already given up on it for whatever reason. And nowadays, if you really want to get to a point where you're going to be healing, it's just going to be harder than it's ever been before. Why is that? Because we have different Cinco G towers in cities. We have monocrop farming. We have fluoride in the water supply. We have bright artificial lights on at night. We have petrochemicals in your pharmaceuticals, in your makeup products, in your cosmetics, in your conventional shampoos. Like it's just much harder. We have different things we have to deal with now than human beings before us ever did. And it just means that, like, if healing, in my opinion, in 2023 and going into 2024 is really for, I think, the boldest of people. Because if this is something you really want to do, you're going to be a black sheep by definition. You're going to have to be comfortable getting uncomfortable, being in uncomfortable situations, looking different than everyone else, regardless of race, religion, background, politics, any of that. Because when you understand that health is your best asset, and then not only that, that time is your best asset when you're healthy. So, I mean, we have a lot of older folks nowadays, and it's really sad to see a lot of older folks, deteriorating, going to, say, old age homes, or, because they've become liabilities to their families, or just have literally forgotten how to live. And we are normalizing this outcome, this behavior. And what's important is none of this is normal. And just because it's common does not make it normal. And I was going through for coming up with something for the blog this week, and I came across this old, I think it's a Native American story. And the story goes, there's a young boy who's angry with his life. Something's going on. And he goes up to his grandfather, and the grandfather notices that he's kind of pissed off for some reason. And the grandfather kind of goes into telling his grandson about a story and how inside of them there are 2 wolves. And one, lives in harmony with the environment, is happy, does not take offense if harm wasn't meant to him. And the other is evil and full of anger and has a quick temper. And the grandfather goes on and on and on. And at the end, the boy just asks, like, in this fight, who wins? Which of these wolves win? And the grandfather's answer is the one I feed. Point in the story being, what we give our attention to, our energy to, ultimately becomes our reality in the future. So if you give energy to the worry and the failure and the what ifs, that's what's going to manifest over time. But if you can get to a place where you're living in harmony and seeing the longer term benefit and understanding, it's not about what happens this month, next month, 3 months, 6 months from now. It's what happens 10, 20, 30 years down the road, so that my family isn't taking care of me or has to take care of me, or I become a liability to someone else because I can't walk up the stairs or go to the bathroom by myself, or basic things. And I think we don't think about that. And we're seeing what that modern lifestyle leads us to if we continue to go down that path. So the point of this being is, like, what we've written to this point does not dictate the ending. You have the time right now to become the author of your story. You can make this a story of the phoenix. You can become reborn. You get to become your own phoenix. But to do this, you have to be part of your own healing journey. And with that in mind, like, you have to be the one who takes the responsibility and goes through with it. And the goal of today's talk is to talk about what are some of those action steps that you can do. What are some of the game plans that you can have for yourself so that we can make this a reality going forward, because this is the only way you get to true freedom. Even folks who do incredibly well and are super rich sometimes aren't free if they don't have their health, because if they don't have their health, they end up working their entire lives only to gain their health back that they lost doing their job. And if you think about it that way, then what was it all really worth? So we have to do it. And it starts with setting goals. And to talk about that, we need to talk a little bit about genes and epigenetics. Now, if you've been around here a while, you know that genes themselves really don't do anything. They're effectively a blueprint, right? So, if I want to build a house, and I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to need a blueprint to see, okay, we need X amount of steel girders for this. We need X amount of 4x4s for this room. And this is how you put this and this together to make this space, right? That's all genes do. They don't actually do anything. They're blueprints. And what our environment does, what we do in our environment, basically signals to our genes, okay, we need this blueprint for this thing so we can make this protein that we need, this structure. That's all proteins are in the body. They're structures. They make up the structure of the body. They make up the structure of plants. They make up the structure of animals, of bacteria, of fungi. They're just the structural components. Epigenetics are responsible for taking those genes out of the sleeve, out of the drawer, so that other organelles can actually go and make the proteins. Usually that's ribosomes or something like that. That's going to make the proteins. So the genes, my point in saying all this is that the genes in and of themselves are not going to control your health outcomes. They never have, they never will. This is largely why we haven't seen much of an impact in health outcomes, especially here in America, since we've discovered DNA in the 1950s, right? Because we keep thinking genes are causing the problem. They're not. They're just the blueprint. So, but we keep diving down this rabbit hole. Now, why is this a problem? Because when you're told the genes cause your illness, you're now absolved of all responsibility. And now you think, oh, I have this MTHFR mutation. There's nothing I can do. I can never detox. I'm broken. And that there's nothing further from the truth than that. And what we need to do is start rewiring our brains and start creating new habits. Now, how long does it take to create new habits is longer than what most people think. Because what most people think is it takes 30 days. And the truth of the matter is, when they actually looked at studies on this, they found out it takes on average 66. And basically what they found was how long did it take a task to become quote unquote automatic for a person to become a habit where it didn't take any more willpower to do? They found on average it takes 66 days to build a sustainable habit where it becomes part of your programming. So we have the ability to change our programming every 2 months or so, given the actions that we conscientiously take every single day. And this is why it's so important that, especially nowadays, when everyone's trying to sell you on the next latest detox or miracle formula or miracle supplement or hydrogen water bottle or whatever, these don't fix the daily habits that you have to make every day. You have to formulate every day, and they cannot replace the things that made you sick. If you truly want to heal, you have to be willing to give up what made you sick in the first place, and you can't slap band-aids on it, whether it's pharmaceuticals or supplements or anything in the like. They can help, but they cannot replace. And that's a really important thing to kind of bring together. And if you want, like, one of the markers that I give, my patients that I work with, as far as like, what is healing? How long is it going to take? You got to ask yourself, how long has something been going on? And if something's been going on for, 10 years, let's say 20 years. So if you've been dealing with, chronic issue X for 20 years, you should basically expect 4 to 6 weeks of healing per year. So what does that mean? It's going to take anywhere between 20 to 30 months to really heal. And this is why I opened with, true healing is for the bold. It is not super linear. It takes time. And we have to be willing to give it the time. Now, the good news is it's going to be a fraction of how long it took to get to where you are, but it's still going to take longer than what most people expect, especially here in the US, where we're inundated with pharmaceutical commercials and, you take this and, everything's going to go away and you could go on the roller coaster and take a bath in a bathtub on a mountain or whatever you're doing in the commercial. But we've now taken that and now replaced it with green allopathy. And green allopathy has the same problems. Just because you're doing it with supplements and vitamins does not mean it replaces what you're supposed to do, even though I feel like a lot of folks go into that with that mentality. And that's why I see the folks, I did the $1,000 detox protocol, or I bought, $1,000 worth of supplements a month and I didn't get to where I wanted to. It's like, well, are you changing your environment that you live in? Because the fundamental basics are the things that need to change first. So we need to ask ourselves, and you don't have to do all of it at once, but you need to change small things in different areas. So what is the one thing you can do, say, this month to improve, to reach your nutrition goals? What is one thing you can do this month to spend more time in nature, to get proper amounts of sleep, to manage stress better, to be more physically active, to improve your relationship with food or your partner or your spouse or your friends or your parents, whatever. One thing. Focus on that one thing per category. Make it part of your routine. Practice it for 2 months or however long it takes to become habitual, and then move on to the next thing. That is how you start to heal. Truly, that is how you start to heal. There are certain things you can do along the way to help hasten the process, but if you're not doing the fundamental stuff, it's not going to last. And I just see that happen all the time, and I'm sick and tired of seeing people get hoodwinked on the next big thing or cleanse or what have you, and not going through the stuff you need to go through. And it's important to understand that, days are going to be up and down, but we have to change our environment if you want to change your habits. And the real life hack, the only true life hack that I've seen actually work, is it's much easier to change your environment to change your habits. And changing your environment by definition changes your habits. So what do I mean by that? Like, one of the most effective tools that I've used, say with food, oh, I have a sweet tooth. Oh, I'm always reaching for candy. Oh, I'm always doing this. The easiest way to stop eating it is to not have it in the house, is to literally throw it out, give it away, etc. You've now changed the environment, and all of a sudden it becomes a lot easier. You don't have that itch, because it's not immediately available. That can happen you could use that logic for a lot of different things, whether it's relationships, whether it's healing from injuries, whether it's gut health or SIBO or digestive challenges, high blood pressure, blood sugar issues. The point is, you have to change that environment. One of the other things you can do, inspire gratitude. I think we need to be grateful for all the time we have, because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. So just be grateful for, and it could be anything. Be grateful that you got out of bed today. Be grateful that you have 2 arms and 2 legs, if you do have that, to walk and be mobile and make a change. And if you don't, be happy that you got up. Be happy that you can inspire others. Try to embrace some pastimes that you've had in the past. So in this case, I mean, especially when it comes to physical activity or something like that, chances are you like doing something active. Maybe it's joining a soccer league. Maybe it is playing tennis. Maybe it's playing pickleball. Maybe it's going for a run or swimming because you used to swim in high school or something. It could be anything. But the point is, embrace the things you like, because if you like doing the thing, you're more likely to continue doing the thing. That's a big one. Another big one, especially today in the social media age, the age of immediacy, is we have to get out of this all or nothing mindset that so many folks fall into. It's a trap, kind of like what we were just talking about. If you're committed to changing your behavior, and you kind of have to be, if you want to truly heal, you have to accept the fact that it's not going to happen overnight, and just enjoy the journey along the way. It's not going to be perfect every day. There's always going to be things to try to push you off path, off base. But as long as you're on the right track, as long as you're moving generally in the right direction, and the path might go up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But guess what? From day 1 to day 90, you went from here to here. The up and downs all led to a net improvement. And that's the point that's most important. Also, you have to have a purpose. So I find the folks that do well really understand what their mission and purpose is. And it doesn't need to be a grand, world-changing thing either. I think that's great if you want to, but it's for a lot of people, it's as simple as, I want to be around for my grandkids. I don't want to be a liability so my kids don't have to take care of me when I'm 70 years old. I don't want to have another surgery and have another organ removed because I had a gallbladder removal when I was younger. Or, I don't want to have the hysterectomy, and I want to, see if there's other ways to go around it. Whatever that purpose is, a lot of it takes some introspection and being honest with yourself. And what I tell most of my patients that I work with, whatever that is, write it on a sticky note or somewhere. Put it on the mirror in your bathroom. Put it on your end table next to your bed, somewhere where you're going to see it every day, because there's going to be days that are not fun, that are not going to go your way, that you're going to feel like crap, that you're going to feel like, oh man, was all that work worth it because X, Y, and Z didn't go my way today? That's what's going to push you through it. And you have to have that. You have to. So, whether it's a sticky note or a piece of notebook paper that you tape to a mirror, whatever it is, do it. Now, as far as setting those intentions, there's kind of a method too that I'll talk about in the blog this week. But the first part is going to be identifying whatever that desire is. It could be big, small, it could be specific or general, but be honest with yourself and find out what that desire is. The second step is being clear on who you have to be. So not who you are, but who do you have to be to reach that goal? Who do you aspire to be? And then start building that into your life on a day-to-day basis. The next thing you have to do is decide on those specific action steps. So these are not the goals. These are the actions you need to take to get to the goals. And I find this is the most important part of building goals is the action steps. So you want to get specific with the actions you need to take to fulfill those intentions, those desires that you aspire to reach. It starts with what are the action steps. And the action steps, usually, as we'll talk about, are the boring, or what most people call the boring, the unsexy, the things you have to do to get to that goal. So like, what do those kind of look like? Instead of making a vague goal of, I want to be healthier in 2024, be like, okay, I'm going to work out X numbers of hours a week. I'm going to spend X number of minutes outdoor per day. I'm going to spend at least 10 minutes. I'm going to get 10 minutes of sunlight 3 times a day, 10 in the morning, midday, evening. I'm going to make dinner 3 times this week. I'm going to go to bed 15 minutes earlier than I did last week. Quantifiable, measurable goals that are not dictated by the outcome. It's the action. The outcomes will come, but you need to focus on the actions, because the actions are what lead to the outcomes. So when you're building goals, and I this is something that I feel wholeheartedly about, it's nice to have the outcome as a goal you want to reach, but what you should be measuring are the actions to get there, not the number, if that makes any sense. The next part is dealing with any limiting beliefs. So we have to reframe that mindset. So it's not what can I do, if I can do it, what if, there's really 4 reasons why folks I find don't follow through on their New Year's resolutions, right? It's focusing on the negatives, right? The limiting beliefs. It's taking away something. So instead of looking at, you're focusing on what you're taking away versus what you can gain. So, oh man, like I really don't want to give up, the dairy because my aunt makes this cheese fondue or whatever. But you're not looking at it. Oh, what am I going to gain? Oh, wow. I'm going to not have the joint pain. I'm not going to have the digestive upset. I'm not going to have to excuse myself from a party because I don't feel like crap. And that is a big mindset shift as well. The other part is trying to do something. Idea like there's an end date in mind. Like, oh, I'm going to do this for 2 months. And, if I don't reach my goal in 2 months, then it didn't work and I give up and I'm broken and I'm this and that. That's the third one. The fourth one is the instant gratification. Like I want something and I want it now, not what are the steps to get there. That's why we're going through this. So it's focusing on the negatives, taking something away, trying to do something and not following through, and then wanting something without doing the work. And this is where the introspection part comes in, because if you really, really want it, those are the things that we can work through. Okay? Like you could certainly get there, but it's going to take doing that. And it's going to be reinforcing these intentions daily. So once you've identified like what that new belief or intention is that you want to work towards, then you have to reinforce it. So part of it is, like I said, writing it down and then repeating it because you see it on your bathroom mirror every morning, something like that. And then you do have to have some faith when you go into this, because again, I find using the actions, the steps you need to take as the measuring stick is better, because we don't necessarily know how long something's going to take, because everyone's situation, past history, surgeries, health status, mindset, all are different. So all of those play a role in how quickly one might be able to heal, how long you've been dealing with a certain challenge. All these are important. So it's more focusing on the steps and the process than okay, I haven't reached this goal by this date, I guess it didn't work. So we have to look at, oh no, I'm actually doing the steps, and with time it's going to get there. And you have to lean into that faith that you're going to get there. this is also where like the placebo and nocebo make a really important appearance. So if any of you are familiar with Joe Dispenza, he has a book, I think it's called You Are the Placebo or something of that nature. I might have the name mixed up. But the point of the book, the real SparkNotes version, is the placebo effect is so strong that it literally changes our physiology based on just what we think of the positive expectation, the placebo, versus the negative expectation, the nocebo. And this is so powerful that they have to actually factor this into pharmaceutical studies and random control trials, because even though we can't necessarily explain it, it's there. And that's why people get better just taking sugar pills, because they believe what they're taking is making a difference. And that is how powerful literally your mindset can be. So if some of this sounds like woo-woo or anything like that, remember, like, mindset is going to be the foundation, and whether or not something works a lot of times literally comes down to the fact of, will you believe it? Do you believe it? And it sounds crazy, but modern science understands that and acknowledges it. So whether you believe it or not, kind of is a lot of the point. Something worth the thinking about. The other part is, you have to feel it to heal it. And whatever those roadblocks are, like, you're going to have to confront them. And that could be talking with someone, that could be talking with a practitioner, that could be talking with someone like me. And sometimes it's just having someone to bounce those ideas off of that's a more neutral party, right? Like someone who's not emotionally involved or invested in whatever's going on. That can be more objective, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say. And that's a lot of like what it takes to break down those barriers. Like, I was talking with a patient of mine who's been doing great. And it's been, a while since we started working together. And she was talking about like, I've seen some, some bouncing back into like what happened a little bit years ago. What could be going on. And we literally just talked through it. Like, oh, well, this changed. Oh, well, that changed. Oh, well, well, I haven't been doing this as much as I'd like to. Oh, well, I had this job change, so I've had to change some stuff, and my schedule's a little different. And it was literally just troubleshooting that and coming up with ways to reincorporate the things we were already doing. There were no herbals added on. There were no crazy protocols. Why? Because you need to get to the root. It doesn't matter. You could throw 5 different herbals or supplements at problems and hope for the best. And, maybe for 30 to 40%, that might help. But if you don't actually understand why, like if I didn't ask the questions for the context, or she didn't give me the context, I gave her much better answers because we had a conversation. Because she, and even she was saying like, yeah, like when we talk it out, like it makes a lot more sense and it's more actionable because I just have someone to bounce ideas off of. And so much of it is that. So, you have to be able to feel it to heal it, and then personify the person that you want to be. Even if you're not that person yet, you have to embody it. So, and that starts with believing you can heal or put your condition into remission. Or sketch out how much time that you can give yourself, because you need to put in the time for you to heal. It's like me going to the gym and working with the trainer and then having him do the push-ups for me. Am I going to get the benefit? Of course not. The trainer is, if he's going to do the push-ups, not me. If he tells me to do push-ups and I don't do them, I'm not going to get the benefit. That's the point here. So, what are some of the roadblocks that could stop you from doing that? It's going to be things like, do I have any limiting beliefs around whatever health concerns are going on? Am I willing to pay for herbals or support if I need it? And again, I use herbals, but I tend to not use a lot because I want to make the lifestyle, the environment, the main healer, because ultimately you heal you and I am a guide. I can facilitate that. Are you ready to give up the things that make you sick? Are you willing to put in the time to focus on your healing? Are you willing to make some of the social sacrifices or family sacrifices that you need to heal? And sometimes that's what it is. Do I take action, or are you holding yourself back? Do you have an adequate support system? Are you ready to find a new support system if you need it? Do you have any stress reducing techniques that you use in your life? Do you need a healthcare practitioner or someone to guide you, someone to bounce these ideas off of? All of these things are questions that you have to ask yourself, and I can't give you those answers. But what I can do is kind of give you an idea of like where it is that's a good place to start for you. And that's ultimately what it's about. So that's a part of it. The other part, before I get to the SMART goals, which I just want to go over quick, is how you present yourself matters. So just be cognizant, or start being cognizant of your tone when you talk, your breathing. Are you breathing nasally, or are you constantly in a rush and you're breathing fast and you're kind of panting and you're all over the place and excited? Just be cognizant of that, because how you do that, actually, how you present yourself internally, like you're going to reflect that in some way, not even towards other people, but towards yourself. So be cognizant with your tone when you're talking. Be cognizant of your breathing. Be cognizant of your language, although your language is not as important as either one. And then fourth, be cognizant of your body posture. There's not that many depressed people who are, or I should say very happy people who are like this, and their head is hunched and their shoulders are rounded and they're looking down. You're not going to find too many people who love life like this. You're also not going to find very many depressed people or anxious people who are walking around with their chest held high and their head as if they're pulled up by a string and they're standing tall and open. Chances are that person's probably not going to be depressed or anxious. So manipulating your body posture, manipulating your tone, your breathing, while these things, we call them automatic, they're real and they make a difference. And again, you can all do this while you're looking in the mirror as you write out your mission and purpose and look at it. And it can be that reminder, hey, stand up straighter. Hey, pull my shoulders back. Hey, I can be the light that shines onto other people. So, these are all things that make a difference. And the biggest difference, and this is the thing that I see on social media that bothers me probably the most, is while someone's trying to sell you the next best thing to do this, and this, the true key to healing is repetition. That is how you get to reprogramming. Really, all reprogramming your brain is learning and then doing. Learning plus repetition over time equals reprogramming. So that's why I started this talk with how long does it take to start reprogramming your mind? It's on average 66 days per habit. So if you pick one habit from your nutrition, if you pick one habit for movement, if you pick one habit for working on breathing, nasal breathing, standing straighter, and you incorporate one of these habits for 66 days, by the time you get to that, you will be reprogrammed. They will be automatic. Now you add on another one. And the problem is that most people are looking for a quick fix, and the quick fix does not replace the reps ever. My background is in sports. I can tell you honestly, in my career, and you hear this from professional athletes, but really people who are good at anything, the people who are the best at the things they do are not necessarily the most skilled or the most talented. They're the ones that get the reps because they've done it hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of times. That's why they look effortless doing what they do. And it sounds daunting when you look at it from I'm at the base of the mountain and I got to climb to the top. But it all starts with one foot in front of the other. And if you can give yourself the time to do it, and like I was saying before, if you've been dealing with something for 20 years, expect at least 20 months of recovery time because that's what it takes. And there is no shortcut to that. Another good marker that I'll use for folks, by the way, in case you're wondering, is I'll mention, hey, like if you're seeing 5 to 10% improvement a month, that is a good rate of improvement. And this is why like the expectation part of it is so important, because it's more about building the foundation, because if you build the foundation, the stuff is going to come. That's what neuroplasticity is. All we're talking about today is neuroplasticity. Getting to a point where you literally rewire your brain to a point where you do not have to think about it. You have reprogrammed. That in and of itself is pretty amazing. So that's ultimately what we're covering today. And I hope this makes sense. Now, I want to leave you with something that's hopefully pretty useful. Now, I've been using this with my patients probably for the last 6 months or so, maybe a little bit longer. It wasn't a date, but I came up with a daily scorecard. And basically there's 10 categories, if you will. And the goal is to get 10 points a day for 90% of the days per month. And generally speaking, if you could get to 80% per month, if 80% of the days you could get 10 points, and I'll go through what the 10 things are, but that will maintain your progress. Anything above 80%, you will start to heal. I like to shoot for 90 days. 90% is the target, because honestly, no one can do 100%. Like, just real life gets in the way. Things happen. I get it. 90% is where I really see like true healing, but anything above 80 is going to get there. So great example. If a month is 30 days, right? 90% would be 27 of those days that you get 10 points. So, and there's a lot of ways that you can earn points. So I'm going to go through this. This will be on my blog tomorrow. So if you don't get it, you can just read it. It'll be there. But I give this to all of my patients and clients that I work with, because this is the foundation right here. So point 1 is 3 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. And you get 1 point per 3 servings. So if you hit 6 servings of fruits and vegetables, you get 2 points. You hit 9, you get 3 points. You also subtract 1 for seed oils, processed foods, sugars, meats, dairy, refined grains, etc. So you can lose points too. Second point, grounding. 15, 20 minutes per day if you can. That will get you a point. Number 3, drink at least 60 ounces of healthy water. Now, that also includes eating fresh fruits and vegetables, particularly raw. You can get water from those. Moving your body with intent is number 4, and that's not walking. So walking can certainly be one, and that's like a bonus that I'll talk about. But moving your body with intent, whether that I like things like MoveNat or functional movements, or depending on where you are in your training, that's going to look different for each person. But something that is more than just walking. Walking, I think, is a great starting point for some people, depending on where they're at. But we really got to get to a point where we're doing more than that. If you really want to maintain and build health, you're going to have to push yourself at some point. Sunlight, 10 minutes a day, 3 times a day, morning, midday, evening. And that does not include behind glass windows or driving in your car, with all the windows up. Sleep or rest for 7 to 9 hours a day. Stimulate the mind. That can be doing a crossword puzzle, reading a new chapter book, learning something new, something to stimulate your brain. Meditate, journaling, breath work, some form of introspection. That'll get you a point. Some form of meaningful interaction with a spouse or a loved one or a friend. That could be as simple as just hugs or a conversation, or getting together with a group, or playing a soccer game, because that's your community, right? It's your soccer community that you play with, or what have you. And then the 10th point will be, if you have any healthy herbal formulas that you're taking them. But then you're also going to get -2 for drugs consumed: alcohol, marijuana, caffeine, nicotine, etc. You can also get bonus points. You can add 1 for going for a walk, affirmations, taking a legitimate work break, 1 random act of kindness, grounding, qigong, tai chi, time in nature, etc. All of these can get you bonus points. So, it's really not too difficult, but this is how you lay the foundation. So it's doing those things, but it's more importantly doing them on a regular basis. And that's ultimately what makes, the biggest difference. And for me, that's what it's all about. And if we want to get radically healthy in 2024 and heal and become autonomous individuals that are going to make a difference in the long run, that's where it's going to start. And before I close this out, I'll just leave this with this. I was listening to a podcast. Someone sent me one of the new longevity books, top-selling author. I'm not going to give you the name. I was listening to a podcast, and he's an MD, big in, one of the longevity gurus. And he said something that kind of stunned me, and I'll tell you why. So this guy charges folks $250,000 a year to get his medical advice. And on a podcast, he said, and to one degree, I appreciate the honesty, but he was also like, yeah, when we're talking about high blood pressure, I guess I never really took the role of the kidneys seriously. And that kind of stunned me. Like, if someone's going to pay this guy $250,000, I mean, hey, people have their own money, and I'm all for people doing whatever they want with their money. But, if you're going to pay someone that much money and they don't necessarily think that the kidneys play a role in blood pressure, or we're not aware of it, to me, that's a problem. But again, to each his own. My point is, like, the value of what you get does not necessarily come with the price tag, but investing in someone who can help you can be worth its weight in gold or not, depending on how you do it. And this is why, part of the reason why I like sharing so much of this information here is because I want it to be available. I want it to be public. I want to have public conversations, because that's how you start to learn. I'm talking $250,000 a year. That's a lot of money for someone to not seriously consider, the kidneys playing a role in blood pressure, when that's literally what the kidneys do. They filter blood, but they also help balance blood pressure, right? I'm not going to get into it now because I've got whole videos on it, but that's a major role of what the kidneys do. So, and what's crazy is, like, when I give that information to the folks that I work with, I'm like, wow, like, I literally charge less than 1% of that. Yet I'm giving probably better information. I'm not saying that to be mean or toot my own horn, because, like, I really don't mean it by that. But my point is, like, find someone who you value and work with them, because having someone in your corner who's going to fight for you, who can bounce ideas off you, who can keep you on the right track, is, in my opinion, worthwhile, especially in a world that's going to make a difference. I'm still taking on, by the way, new patients going into 2024. If you want to book a call with me and start transforming your health, I work with folks in 90-day intervals. And if you want to work with me and get my one-on-one support, we can make it happen. There's a link in my bio. You could check it out. You could schedule a call with me, probably at some point early next week. And we can hop on and really hit the ground running, and you could have someone, in your corner. So, you have to find someone you trust, and you have to find someone who, that you resonate with. So I hope you guys have a lovely new year. And just, again, real quick before we go, if you haven't checked out the How to Get World-Class Sleep ebook, that has a ton of stuff that we've talked about for that. And if you want to work with me going into 2024, I am taking on new folks. If you really want to get your health right in a way that's clearly, I guess, literally 1% of some of the competition. um, yeah, we could certainly do it. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and I will see you guys in 2024. See you then.